Good morning, St. Maarten. What's up? One of the another streams, eh? This is episode 105, November 27th, 2023. So, what are we doing today? What we talk about today? That's always the question that everyone has in mind. What Camper gonna touch today? Who Camper gonna hit today? I ain't hitting nobody. Just want to deal with the facts, the realities, what's really happening in this country, why is it happening in this country, etc., etc. You know, a lot of people ask me, you want to talk about the court case? And I said, no, the courts have spoken and the appeals have been filed in the verdicts with the Prime Minister, Minister of VSA, and Mr. Arundel. Now, the appeal will take some time to go through the process. That's a normal something. But again, the courts have ruled. The apologies will have to be made, and I believe they were made, if what I saw on Facebook. Again, I am not aware of everything. And again, the judge pre-wrote the text, so there's no misunderstanding on what has to be written or what doesn't have to be written. Videos have to be taken down, recordings have to be handed over, etc., etc. I think, all in all, the verdict of the courts will stand for now until the end of the appeal. The appeal judges can differ with what came out in first instance. That's nothing new. That's just democracy. That's how our system works. And we'll see from there. But again, you got to respect the decisions of the courts, no matter how you feel about it, which side of the fence you're on. The courts are the courts, and we got to respect that. Justice must be respected, even if you don't agree with it. Now, a lot of documents have been published on social media platforms regarding the garbage collection tender. Now, I have been very quiet about this tender because it came out of the ministry and the documents were not clear. I worked in that ministry. I have a good idea how tenders are supposed to go. The minister had a lot of things to say that we didn't know what we were doing and how we were doing it was totally wrong, etc., etc. But I'll tell you this much. From the few documents I saw and I looked at, I can clearly state there was fraud. I don't have to go deep into it, but I am going deep into it. I'm going to download as many documents as I can get. I'm going to ask whoever have them if they can share them, because they're now public already. I didn't say nothing because I didn't have all the documents, but now I've seen so many documents on WhatsApp, I think it was, that have been circulating. I even saw a video where on the screen there were whole files available. Now, I am sure that the Ombudsman report touched a lot of these things, but the Ombudsman report was not a public report. It was handed in to Parliament, and Parliament voted away that report 8-7. If you all can remember, our then MP who was ill, MP William Allen, was flown in from Panama to save the minister in this case. Now, these documents have now appeared on the social media, and I'm going to look through them. I'm going to give my personal opinion on how I see it, how I believe it should have gone and it should not have gone. When you see documents with 7 signatures in the first round of evaluations where people were disqualified, and then you see only 4 signatures going to the governor, then 2 fundamental questions need to be answered. What happened to the first batch of evaluations? Why were they eliminated? Who authorized their elimination? And then you look at the signatures and you realize that more than half of the signatures belong to the cabinet of the minister. And then you wonder, allowed? What's going on here? Because the minister is a separate entity that checks the tenders. But when you put your personnel in there to upfront decide who qualifying and who ain't qualifying, we have a problem. So I'm going to take these documents and review them very carefully. and I will give my opinion. Now, when I do that and how I do that, I will leave that to be seen in time. But I'll tell you this much. The governor approved it. Now, I know the governor to be a man of integrity. So I will not exclude him at this point in time from the review, because he eventually approved it and signed the national decree. Now, he might have been misled, because I just spoke of 2 sets of documents, 7 signatures and 4 signatures. So I will eventually find out what went to the governor. And if it is only 4 signatures and the 7 signatures documents were not part of the file, then it is outright fraud. No ifs and buts about that, and no minister could talk that away. But before I accuse anybody, I'm going to go through these documents myself. I will ask the questions on social media and loud, so that we all know what we're talking about. The outcome of the courts was in a different court case. This one is the one that I am going to be talking about. Remember what I have always said. Failing to plan is planning to fail. And this government has done that over and over and over, and now suddenly start to take credit for things they haven't even done. But we'll get to that. Today I want to focus on paraphernalia and poverty. I got many calls since Postulation Day, and I read a lot about the excessive posters and flags all over the island. While I understand the usage of posters and flags, which was the style many moons ago, remember, I've been around the political arena since the early 90s, and flags and posters, t-shirts, caps, jingles, cook-ups, chicken legs, Johnny cake, the whole 9 yards. That's how the arena used to be. Parades with cars and horns, that's what it used to be. But guess what? That was 30 plus years ago. We are in a complete new generation, a generation of social media, where you get free airtime, like I am doing right now. You can talk about your programs, you can talk about your manifestos, you can show the ills. Remember, we are in the Christmas season right now, and all they're doing is sending you messages of how to vote and how not to vote, and fill up your district, not with Christmas lights or Christmas trees. No, they fill it up with posters and flags. And that's unfortunately. And a lot of people have started criticizing it because it is taking away from the spirit of Christmas. The spirit of Christmas, is when you show your love to all your people. When you give what you can afford. And things are tough. I agree. But if we have enough money to paste up the whole Parnfield and neighborhoods and hills with flags and with posters, do like what I have asked all of us to do. Put it to better use. Feed the people in this country that are hungry. Help the people in this country that need help. You see, when I look at the posters right now, even the rules that were set by government and published by government are not being adhered to. When you go in the roundabouts, there cannot be posters or flags or anything up. When you look on Colby Hill, in the corner by Harold Jack, the complete vision of that corner is gone because of posters being put up. And then my question is, what the hell is the police doing? Because the police is responsible for the safety and the order of the traffic. Why are they not stepping in? Are they being instructed by the Minister of Justice not to do this? Because that's a big problem if that's the case. I hope it's not the case. But that posters are still up in the roundabouts, right in front the police station, makes us wonder if there's any respect for the authorities. You want to go hold people and find them because they park on the boardwalk and they park on the square, but they put up a poster in front of your face and you ain't doing nothing. People are going to have to then ask the question, Is this a lawless country? Is this going to be a lawless election? Because this is how it starts. You just see how far you can go. I told some people, you know what would be hilarious? If you go in front of the homes of all the politicians and put up big posters so that when they come out, they can see a different person. Because they see themselves in the mirror every day. Yet they got posters up there from 20 by 20 nearly. Nobody interested in your poster. What they're interested in is that they have something to eat, of food on their table for Christmas, a gift for their child, some clothes, some nice clothes for their children. That's what families are interested in, not posters. You can't eat posters. You can't eat flags. The plywood they can use to fix the roofs that you all had promised them. So when they start taking down the posters and using the wood, don't cry. Because you ain't helping them, you ain't fixing their roofs. All you're doing is meet and greets, come and eat. 4 years you ain't feed them. Now suddenly elections start, you want to feed them. You all ain't serious. You all don't understand the crisis this country is in. But we're going to talk about it today. Because when you look at our country, it's a complete shame of what's happening in this country right now. The census was just held. I am not making up these numbers. I am just taking them out of the census report and interpolating them and explaining you what this means really. Because everybody doing as if St. Maarten is doing so great. St. Maarten is in a bad position right now, a very bad position. 25% of all households, that's 1 in every 4 households that partook in the census, have less than 1,625 guilders to make do with every month. Listen carefully. Less than 1,625. So even if 2 people live in there or 3 people live in there and working together, they are making less than 1,625 guilders a month. That's not even $1,000, people. 25% of the households in this country are like that. That's about 3,375 homes in St. Maarten. That's nothing to shout about. That's just downright disgrace that people don't have enough to eat. Because that's what it means. Because the same census said to live in St. Maarten, a livable wage for a household is 3,552 guilders, people. These people have less than half of that. 25% of our country has less than the livable wage that the census said they should have. But it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there. That's the hurtful part. The median is a number that when you take 10,000 numbers, number 5,000, that number is the middle. So when you put on all the salaries of the households, of all the people that have worked, because they interviewed about 39,000 plus people, the median was 2,750. Again, way below, 800 guilders below the threshold of 3,552. That means more than 50% earn less than you need to live. But it doesn't stop there. See, if I had stopped and I said, okay, let's see how we can fix this bleeding. When you look at the GDP, the gross domestic product, that's the amount of money that goes through your country, divided by the people living in your country. It gives you an amazing sum, and I checked it yesterday yet, of some $34,000 to $36,000 a year. If you divide it by 12, it would mean everybody should be earning about $3,000 a month. Now we know for a fact that that's not true. We know for a fact that by SZV, 54% of the people earn minimum wage. 75% of the working population earns less than 3,500 guilders, less than $2,000. But on average, every man should have been making about $3,000. So it shows you that the money doesn't reach the people. It reaches a few pockets. That's what it shows you. It shows you that the industry that is making the money is not sharing the money. But we're doing good, man. We working for we people. We are great. No, we are not. Because the money is not reaching the people. And this is not something that happens overnight. So I'm not going to lay the blame alone by the present government, the NA up. But they haven't done absolutely anything to fix it, other than lie and enrich themselves. That's what they have done. And now they're going to come and ask you for a vote and tell you, were you better off than 4 years ago? Hell no, you were not better off. You're in a deplorable condition. So Maarten is not doing what it has to be doing. It's not taking care of its people. When you look at the household average of about 2.1 persons per household, that means that in the 3,375 homes that live below 1,625 guilders, you're talking about close to 6,750 people that are hungry in this country every day. Remember, house rent, transportation, utilities, all of those things come from that 1,625 guilders. That's what it means. The census covered about 80% of all the island homes. They went back in to check people, but the results were still not what they were. It showed, though, how many homes were rented out on Airbnb, depending on the period of time they went and which areas they were in. Clearly showed that. But the census registration interpolated that this country has about 40-something thousand people living, when the registration at the census office is about 58,000. So again, there's a great discrepancy in the numbers. How real are all the numbers? And I believe the census went out with the right mindset. But I don't know if all these numbers are adding up. Because if we had 58,000 people living here, registered here right now, how is it that we only reached 39,000? Because that's not 80%. You're missing too many people then. So either the 58,000 isn't real, because 39,000 was 80%, bringing us up to over 47,000, or the 39,000 doesn't reflect 80%. And that means that the situation is much worse than we are presently saying. That it might not be as it really seems, because we didn't touch a lot of homes. That's a conclusion you can pull. But you must remember this. If your GDP, if every person was worth $36,000, and you hear that we have 25% of families living off of $11,000 per year, you got a problem. That's a very serious problem. When half of the population lives off of $18,500 a year, but it should be, according to the calculations of the same census, 24,000, that means there's a gap of approximately $6,000, or 1/3 of the money is missing for them. Now, we have to understand that the GDP is not reflecting in no form or fashion the situation in this country. Not at all. The poverty in this country is significant. The number 1 and number 2 goals of the Sustainable Development Goals for 2030 was poverty eradication and hunger alleviation. Those are the two. We have done absolutely nothing the past 4 years other than run our mouths about sustainable development goals and how we're going to achieve this and how we're going to achieve that, because you haven't achieved the damn thing. Even the money that the Dutch made available to deal with solar energy so that we could put solar panels up on people's roofs and make sure that we can help cut in the bills from GB, you haven't done nothing, Madam Prime Minister, other than talk. Talk about a market grid that isn't real. I mean, please. And now suddenly you hear a minister talking about, oh, he's going to build LNG gas because he went to Puerto Rico to see what was what. And then you hear another one talking about a vision on a beach in KB. Now, please, man. Talk to the people that know something. Because you're only talking to GB. And those are the people that got to put the engines onto LNG gas. Go talk to people like Jerome Tritick and them, or Hodge. Go talk to them. Instead of running your mouth in commercials. Because a lot of people say they know everything, and very often it turns out they know nothing. We need to be careful. We have in this country, surprisingly or not, 25% of the population uninsured, according to a presentation done recently by a medical specialist from the hospital. Their numbers come from there most probably. You know it's 25%. If I use the census numbers, that's about 11,000 people. If I use, the census that we did for the country census, if I use those numbers, that's about 11,000 people. If I use the civil registrations number, we are close to 15,000 people uninsured. We know for a fact that the Sustainable Affordable Healthcare Act ain't coming January now. So we're still in a mess. All the noise and all the propaganda about how this come in and a bill in a hospital, you can't reach further than the ground slab up to now, 2 years later. Last night, I saw it come out on the internet. They showed pictures of 2 years ago when 6,000 metric tons of concrete or cubic yards of concrete was poured. We still ain't reached no further. But we working hard on the hospital. We're going to have the hospital ready. Elections coming. Let's eat food. Let's drink. Let's fool the people. Those are the olden days. Those are the strategies. If you can't convince them, fool them. But those days are over. The people of Maarten have gotten wiser. Much wiser than we want to even give them credit for. And that will show eventually. But there's a bigger group, because when you read 25% of your population is uninsured, you have to start putting that in context with how many undocumented people do you have on this island? Because everybody who's working is insured normally. Now people like to go and loophole, make them work less than 4 days so they don't have to insure them, but they can be insured. Anybody who ain't working and is legal in Maarten gets a PP card and is insured. So we have to look, because there's about 24,000 people insured by SZV. 2,600 are undocumented. If I would take what the census showed, what the civil registration shows, and those numbers from SZV, and I interpolate 1 and 5, we should have about 13 to 15,000 undocumented people on this island that put a burden on your economy and on your infrastructure, but do not contribute to it. When we talk about the informal economy, the gray economy, this is where you find a lot of this. Now again, everybody is human, but the country, Maarten, cannot carry it. Its carrying capacity to handle undocumented has far been surpassed. Yet we don't want to acknowledge it. And by not acknowledging it, you're going to have to think on the consequences that are going to come. How many people don't eat here every day because they can't afford it? The census showed those numbers. They were not nice numbers to read, especially by the seniors and the low income persons. Skipping a meal once a day or once a week was normal. It wasn't strange. Especially grandmothers skipping a meal so their grandchildren can eat. It is sad but true. When you look at various food kitchens that are asking for more and more help every week, it tells you that more and more people need food. Yet we out here running t-shirts, running posters, running flags. I mean, come on. Do we understand what's really happening in this country? Do we even care as politicians sometimes what's happening? I have promised myself I will not be putting up posters personally. If the party puts up a few party posters and my face is in it, I'm okay with that. But I will not be using $1 that I receive in donations or out of my personal money to put up a flag or a poster. I prefer to invest that money to ensure that we can help with poverty. I cannot eradicate it this election. And I'm not going to try to be a hypocrite and say, oh, that's why we're doing it, to eradicate poverty. No, this country needs to eradicate poverty. All I want to do is put a smile on some people's faces for Christmas. That they have something nice to eat, clothes, and maybe gifts. And if you don't vote for me, God bless you. That's okay too. Because I'm not doing it for the vote. I'm doing it to ensure that some people can have a good time too. And not only those that make a lot of money. This is what I'm talking about. We have free social media like I'm using right now that we can do a lot with. Any business that wants to help with a food drive, my intention is to get food vouchers and let the people go to the store to pick up what they need. Not bringing a ham or a turkey, because half the time they mightn't have a stove that can hold the ham or the turkey because it's too big. Or they don't have things to put with the ham and the turkey. So I prefer to give them a voucher, let them get what they need at a few supermarkets that would want to work with us with these vouchers. We have to understand that we need to assist in alleviating poverty. And what better time to do it than during the Christmas season? Not the political season, the Christmas season. It's very unfortunate that it's happening now, that we have politics now, but the law says there's a certain period of time in which the elections must be done, and I understand that. But you must understand that people can't eat posters. People can eat food. And we got to work with these things. You know, we need to ensure we help other entities that are helping seniors, or that are helping homeless kids, or that are helping people that need assistance. You know, we have a lot of people that can't go to the Maarten home because it's full. So they're at home. And sometimes the parents or the children that are taking care of them need help too. Think about them too. You know who they are in your neighborhoods. Remember, there is nothing wrong to show a little kindness. That is not punishable by law. People believe that if you're kind, you're soft. No. Being kind shows you're human. Do that. I admire Nurse Nanny, how she goes along the roads and takes care of the homeless on the road, bathes them, shaves them, gives them to eat. The same thing, like the group in French Quarter, I think they call themselves the Guerrilla Squad. This is to be admired, not looked down to. These are things you have to admire because it takes a special person to do these things. This Christmas, when you sit down home eating your ham and turkey, think about your neighbor that have nothing. And maybe take over half the turkey or half the ham and share it with them because they have nothing. You see, politics, no, doesn't have a human side too often. And I'm asking you all to find the human side and take care of people in this country that need taken care of. Not because we telling people it's so, means it's so. Because all too often, we give up a lot of Nancy stories to get views and clicks, or to be admired. But you know what's the best admiration you can get? A smile on the face of the person you helped genuinely. That you can buy. That you can earn. I really had a good laugh this weekend when I saw the Minister of VSA take credit for ensuring the hospital workers being paid their money retroactive from July to present. Minister, let me be clear with you. You didn't have a damn thing to do with that. You could call the board all you want. You have nothing to tell the board. You don't have an authority at the Maarten Medical Center. You have none. Absolutely none. It was the union, fellas like Bruce Brooks and all them, that fought for what was theirs. And the hospital couldn't afford another industrial action. So they paid what they had to pay the people. So stop your nonsense going out there taking big pictures about how you do this and you do nothing. And the same goes for your comical colleague Doran, sitting down there with GB as if he did anything with a performance merit agreement between the union and Mr. Troy Washington and the board of GB. When blows were falling in Parliament, you run hide. You send the Prime Minister to go answer. She said she responsible for GB, but you there sitting and grinning like a damn fool when they sign in as if you did anything. You didn't do nothing, boy. You are going to stop taking credit for what you didn't do. I'm going to expose you. I told you that before. And now I get the documents. So we're going to see what happened just now. We have to understand, in politics, there are a lot of strange things. Now I notice another candidate left another political party. And this political party has lost at least 5 or 10 candidates by now. It says something about leadership. It does say something about leadership. And putting a big poster in a roundabout ain't gonna make you a better leader. It really isn't going to. You see, for me, campaign is warming up now. I haven't really started yet. But I'm going to. Wednesday now, I'm going to be on Grace at 9 o'clock. I'm going to be on Grace every Wednesday leading up to elections. And I'm going to really start talking about our manifesto and what we stand for and what we plan to do and how we plan to do it. No small talk, just real talk. Keep it real. Tell you what we plan to do and what we don't plan to do. And actually, I'm going to address certain concerns, like for example, the dubious actions that have been taking place with taxi and bus plates and regulations that weren't followed. Because to my knowledge, and if I'm wrong, I'm begging the minister and his chef de cabinet to please put out on Facebook where the regulation was changed. Don't put out an announcement, a public announcement. If you changed that Dutch nationals are not the onlyest persons to get taxi and bus plates, then show it. Because what you put out there, talking about Dutch will be given preference, you see, this is how corruption starts. Because all the people that are Dutch that have been waiting on a plate, suddenly you throw out all those applications, you open an application, come September 11, tell everybody to come in, and then those qualify alone. This is craziness. A lot of people didn't go and register because they had registered already. They're Dutch. They were supposed to be given preference. Yet you gave a lot of people that are not Dutch passport holders a permit. I have a list that I got of plates. I'm going to be confronting you all with a formal letter. Or I'll have my party leader do that in Parliament. That will be better because then you're forced to answer. And tell us where they got their nationality from. Because they're not Dutch. And you said preference was going to be given to the Dutch. So show me who was registered. Because we will show you people that did register a year ago. And if you come with that stupidity about you throw out all those and September 11th was when you started, partner man, you're going to have a problem. You're going to have a very serious problem. Because I think the judge said it best. Bring the policy and then it can be done. That's why no land is being given out. Because they're done with the corruption, with the friends and family. It's done. And this one will stop too. Everybody who deserves a plate should have been given a plate. But this was reserved for Dutch nationals. The help drivers are very often non-nationals. But you can't just do what you did and think that nobody will open their mouth. The garbage collection Ombudsman investigation, whose report wasn't published in its totality, was based on many of the published reports, which clearly shows a very serious breach in how things should have gone versus how they went. And this one goes all the way to the top of the food chain. That's the problem with this investigation. I think that's one of the reasons that you haven't seen the authorities step in yet, because of the implication of certain people, of certain institutions. But that doesn't take away that it was done wrong. It doesn't take away that it was illegal. It just, let me use the phrase, it is our prerogative when we start the investigation. That's how they told it to me once when I asked the question. Nelson Mandela once stated, anybody who changes their principles depending on whom they are dealing with is not fit to lead. And I think many people in government have shown that right now. That depending who they're dealing with is how they adjust to do certain things. And if it means sell out the country, then we sell it out. I can remember some of them sat in parliament and put up a sign, country for sale. They need to look in the mirror right now. And they'll understand that. When you're giving away land, so foreign companies can come in and set up and try to damage the local companies. Country for sale, you're damn right. You're damn right it is. Join me Wednesday now, 9 o'clock, as I will be in the breakfast lounge with Lady Grace. It's going to be straight talk about many lingering issues and naturally the manifesto of St. Maarten. Please share my podcast and also like and subscribe to my YouTube page. Have a great week ahead. Bounces out.